Hola, hola con todos, buenos días. Good morning. I'm waiting for people to be connected. We're all here for the live in our Facebook page for Autism Connect. And we are going to talk about a little on the applied behavior analysis and treatment for the autism spectrum. So a little of my background, bring them on the camera. Wait, it's my first time actually doing a live here, so all right. Okay, so this we're going to talk about applied behavior analysis on the autism spectrum, and a little bit of my background for you guys to know is that I am from Ecuador. At age of 15, I went to the States. I went to live on the States, and I stayed there until about 15 years in the States, and that's where I started studying about autism and applied behavior analysis. So I never knew about autism until I started working with a family whose child was diagnosed with autism. And by then, I only had a degree on human growth and development. So this child who got diagnosed with autism started doing one therapy session that's called the sunrise method. And it intrigued me how the sunrise method worked out. And basically what I did was start looking about autism, and one day this child went running away from his house, and everyone got scared because they couldn't find him. And since that moment, I started researching, and I found out a career on applied behavior analysis. So when I found out the career in applied behavior analysis, I started my journey on it. Basically, all my life, I knew that I was going to have a center in Ecuador or a school or something, like to take children, to help children around my country itself. I didn't know it was going to be on autism specifically, but basically I wanted to do it about children. So I did it on autism specific when I had the experience in the United States. On 2013, I just took all my things and my daughters and came back to Ecuador. And I started working a little bit with children. Now, when I come back to Ecuador in 2013, I started talking about applied behavior analysis and how this works, not only for children with autism, but for many different things. A lot of people didn't know what it was. A lot of people didn't know what autism was. And if they knew what autism was, it was a very big misconception about autism. So it was really hard for me to taking place on a job or do my center if a lot of people didn't know about autism or applied behavior analysis. So what I did then, I started working for a public place as where a lot of children attend daily for a 30-minute session on different kind of therapies. For example, it was a big center where they had water therapy. This therapy that's with horses, language therapy, OT, psychology, and a few more, music therapy. But the children only went there once a week for 30 minutes each session, and they were group sessions. So I was leading that project on a public job that I had, and I just was astonished, and I said, what else can I do in order for me, under my knowledge, to help out and reach families and children with autism. So on the other side, while I work in the morning on this public place, in the afternoons I started just giving information, just informing parents, informing people. I didn't use social media. I was just knocking doors to doors and finding out what families needed or if they knew about autism. So one day a family came into my door, and they asked me if I can help them because a doctor said, the family came into my door and they asked me if I can help them. And I said, sure. It was a family that came from another country, from Venezuela to Ecuador. And I said, sure, I can help you out with your child. I started not working because it wasn't a paid work, because I was just interested of people get to know this branch and get to know more about autism. So I started just working with this child, and until my acknowledgement, 6 months later, this child was doing much, much better. Now, by then, I was just working with the child. I wasn't really applying applied behavior analysis. So this family went to a check-in with our neurologist, pediatric, and the pediatric said, wow, what happened with Jose? And they said, no, I found a girl who was working with him and is helping us out at home. So this neurologist pediatric asked the parents for my contact. We started talking, and I told him, well, I studied applied behavior analysis, and I'm here in Ecuador because I want to expand the branch here in our country as a pioneer. So this was the only doctor that I spoke to and who knew about applied behavior analysis. And he's like, I can't believe there's one person doing science in Ecuador. So he started, he asked me, can I refer you some children? And I said, sure, of course, I'm here for that. And so since then, he started referring me children. So we got our first kids in our small office or my house. And it was really hard for me to explain families about autism. Every time we gave a diagnosis, it felt for the families that someone was dying, basically, or a misconception of not being able to go ahead and do a normal life with a child. Now, what is normal? No one has a normal life. Everyone has difficulties, even if you have autism or not. So since then, we started working with children with autism, and it was really hard to apply applied behavior analysis because, first of all, we have the barrier of materials, and they're taking data, and the staff that they are not. They are not trained on this branch. So every time I try to hire a staff member, they don't have any knowledge on applied behavior analysis. So what we try to do is I try to teach them and show them. So the first years, we try to be as pure as possible on applying ABA. But it was really hard because our staff members did not know anything about ABA. And so we started involving parents. So I said, well, if I'm training staff members, I should train parents too. So once a week, once every 15 days, we'll make parents come into our offices and observe the session, be with us during the session, and be part of the session and explain them and send some skills to manage it at home. So those were the first years that we were trying to apply behavior analysis here in Ecuador. And the second barrier was the diagnosis itself. How do you diagnose? In Ecuador, basically in those years, now it's a little better. In Ecuador, basically what they did in general was to do not have a diagnosis correctly, because a lot of children who came into the office and said and looked, they fit onto all the characteristics of autism, they have got a diagnosis of delayed language, or what's the other one in English? They came out on my mind. Oh, PDD, not PDD, yes. The one that's like TGD. So, or they will get a diagnosis on ADHD, or they will get a diagnosis, or they will just say it was a cultural thing that they will someday speak. But there were a lot of misdiagnosed on on these children who basically they fit all the characteristics of being on the spectrum. So so what we did then was to do awareness. So twice a year we basically did a little photo shoot once a year. And another one, we started doing free workshops to train about autism, to talk about autism, to talk about the early signs of autism and what it is expected and not expected for a child at 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. So we've been doing this campaign in the past 6 years. So in these past 6 years, one of the first campaigns, it was very small because a lot of people didn't know about it, so it was really hard for people to join the campaign. But we did a photo shoot. We asked parents to let us permission of the children and do a photo shoot, basically showing that children on the spectrum are basically happy and they can play and they can learn. And then what we did was do a whole month in April of free workshops for parents for different kind of topics, not only autism, but basically early signs, or how can you play with your child home, or how can you develop more language, or what happens if I work too much and I don't have time to be with my child. So we started doing different kind of workshops, and this we have been doing in the past 6 years. Another thing that we did was we started doing open houses. In these open houses, we invited people to our center and basically just look around and have an open doors for parents on our sessions, because a lot of sessions in Ecuador basically are closed doors. So parents don't know what their child is actually working on. And another thing that we started doing is meetings with parents. So we did meetings once a month where we report the parents our goals and our objectives, and we also talk to the parent and ask, are these goals similar of what the child's doing at home? How do you feel about these goals? Are these goals are similar or going towards of what the family needs? And if they didn't, so we switch on the goals. So this made little by little create a community. Also, once a month, we started doing workshops to our parents in Centro Enigma, where we did specific topics. So what we did was make a calendar and send to all the parents, and basically we talk about play, we talk about abuse, we talk about family sessions, the importance of being a couple and teamwork. So that also we started doing that, and that may actually build up a community in the past 4 or 5 years. So we've been doing 6 years, and we have 6 years doing this awareness. But in the fourth year that we started doing the workshops, that's when we actually started seeing a community. When I meant about community, it means that all the parents attended to the sessions, all the parents attended to the workshops, all the parents are expected of what we're going to be teaching. A lot of parents are referring or other parents to coming to our workshops. So last year and this year, we started doing a little bit more of free workshops. for outsiders, because basically before we only did workshops free only when it was the awareness month, and another month that we chose, which is July, the Pride of Autism. But then with all the pandemic and COVID-19, what we did was doing more workshops for our parents of the center, and then we posted it to be open for other parents who needed the help, or parents who are just whose child got recently diagnosed. So that's what we have been doing to do a community. Now, for the children, we basically 6 years ago, we started getting children ages 5 and 6 to get a diagnosis. Nowadays, we're getting children ages 1.5, 2, and 3-year-olds to get a diagnosis. So we feel like this has been a big impact because we are actually having an early diagnosis. Actually, this year we have had a few 14-month-old, 15-month-old children, 18-month-old, which is good because the last year we got a girl who got pre-diagnosed early signs of autism at age 14 months. She did applied behavior analysis treatment with us, an intensive treatment for 8 months, and then after the 8 months, obviously the autism doesn't have a cure, but she was much more functional to be able to go to a school, to be able to play at home, to be able to communicate with her parents. And we also right now we're having a little girl who's not even 2 years old. She's like 18 months old, 19 months old, and also working with the parents and working with the little girl. We have been able to see much more effect and much more results, easier, faster, in contrast of the children who come at ages 3, 4, and 5. Those children, applied behavior analysis, basically what it does is we analyze the child itself on their skills, compare it to itself. We don't compare it to other children, and we try to work on small goals, step by step, measuring their improvement, and we modify basically our teaching guidelines or our teaching form in order for the child to be successful. Now, as I said before in the live, because we don't have the branch in the university that teaches applied behavior analysis here in Ecuador, it has been very difficult. I think this year is the first year last year is the first year that we've actually had 2 BCBAs or 1 BCBA that has got their license here in Ecuador. But again, it doesn't cover all the need that we have in here. So that's when we did a partnership 3-4 years ago with Global Autism Project, and last year 2 years ago when COVID-19 started, we did a partnership with Lavas Foundation, which is a nonprofit from Spain. So with that, with Global Autism Project, when we started was to get a little more guidelines, supervision, because I was basically guiding 10 staff members, 12 staff members, and as a whole center, and evaluating children. So we had to we had a really hard time trying to train the staff, train the parents, resources. So that's why we did the Global Autism Project partnership that we have, and that's when they had started traveling to Ecuador a few times a year in order to get a guide. So that has been our journey. It has not been easy to apply behavior analysis here in Ecuador, and we are the pioneers here. Now we have another center that does apply behavior analysis, but the cost of the sessions can be very high because of the low training or there doesn't exist basically a branch here in a university that can teach or certify staff members on as an RBT or ABA specialist. So that has been very difficult. I don't know if anyone has a question or wants to interact a little bit. We're at different time zones too. Another thing that I can tell you guys, the process of billing or the process of doing schedules, because I am used to of doing an intensive treatment program, and in Ecuador a lot of the sessions that parents are used to are 45-minute session once a week, and I basically translated a lot of if you want your child to learn to talk, which is a language, Spanish in this case, I kind of like do an analogy of like how much English will you learn if you get into an English class 45 minutes a week? Nothing. So in order for you to learn fluent English or fluent Spanish as a second language, you need to do intensive classes, like every single day, and practice and talk about it and read about it and listen to music in English and look at movies in English, correct? Everyone agrees with me on that. So it's the same thing for our children. For our children, it's the same thing. So we have to emerge on their child's environment, and we have to do an intensive treatment or intensive classes where we train parents, so parents can also promote this language at home. And that's have been very successful, but it has been really hard for me to have parents understand that intensive treatment is very important. Okay, so other than that, I think, Krisha, I don't know if you have questions or if all right. So if you guys want to contact us for how we are managing our parent training or parent meetings, you can do it on our website on Centro Enigma, CentroEnigma, and you can message us, and we can definitely share a little bit of how we have been doing our training. Again, it hasn't been easy because it has taken us pretty much 6 years to build a little bit of a community, and we still get parents coming to our meeting sessions and say, no one has diagnosed my child. We still have parents coming with their child age 5 or 6, worried that they know their child has autism, but pretty much all the specialists that they have gone through, they have told them that the child does not have autism. Then it's really hard to fight with a society that is not educated at that level of being able to diagnose, because the one that is being harmed, it's the child. So even if you're a psychologist and you cannot diagnose, or you're diagnosing a child, you have to make sure you have the ethical guidance to do it the correct way, because you are harming the child. I don't know if in the other countries autism is still a myth.